we're counting down the top 10 hidden realities of the Appalachian Mountains, a place that looks settled on the map but hides a second, wilder story underneath. Most people see these mountains as old, worn-down hills that stopped changing millions of years ago. They picture quiet farms, safe trails, and bedrock that never moves, but that assumption is wrong. Evidence shows this range is actually full of active traps, deep mysteries, and massive underground engines that are still working right now. From lights that survive power outages to a hidden heat blob large enough to lift entire states, the ground here is not what it seems. The number one spot goes to the single largest hidden driver in the region, a feature so deep and hot it rewrites the history of the East Coast. But first, let's begin with number 10. Fact number 10, the lights that resist explanation. The ridge looks ordinary in daylight, but night brings a different story to Brown Mountain. Locals and visitors have reported strange points of light rising above the horizon here for more than a century. These aren't just flickers. Reports describe orbs that glow red or white, hover in the air, and then drift sideways or split apart. That behavior creates a gap between what you expect to see, like a campfire or a car headlight, and what actually appears. Campfires don't float, and car headlights don't detach and wander off. But the real kicker is the timing. In 1916, a massive flood hit western North Carolina, washing out bridges and cutting power lines for weeks. Trains stopped running, and electric lights went dark across the region. This created a perfect natural test. If the lights were just reflections of trains or cars, they should have vanished. Here's the thing. Witnesses on the mountain reported that the lights kept appearing even when the valley was dark and silent. That observation matters because it stripped away the easy answers. Artificial sources could not explain what people were seeing during the blackout, which means the cause was something local and unexplained. Geologists have since looked into piezoelectricity, where stressed quartz rocks create electric charges, but even that doesn't fully explain the motion. So the mystery remains. The lights are still appearing today, hovering over the ridge just like they did 100 years ago, resisting every simple explanation we throw at them. Fact number 9, the massive stone puzzle. A stone wall on a mountain summit sounds like a simple fortification, but the structure at Fort Mountain State Park breaks that mold. The wall stretches for about 850 feet, which is nearly the length of 3 football fields laid end to end. That scale is too large to be a random pile of rocks cleared by farmers. It implies a massive organized effort. The wall winds around the summit in a way that doesn't fit typical military defense strategies. Instead of blocking a single approach, it frames the top of the mountain. Measurements date the structure to somewhere between 400 and 1500 AD, a range that spans more than 1,000 years. That wide window creates a huge knowledge gap. We don't know exactly who built it or why. Some legends tie it to the Moon-Eyed People, a group described in Cherokee tradition as light-skinned, nocturnal, and small in stature. Others suggest it marked solar alignments, noting that the wall has sight lines that line up with the sun during solstices. But here's the wildest part. The wall is still there today, sitting quietly in the woods. You can walk along it right now. It serves as a physical reminder that this region was active and organized long before modern records began. The penalty for dismissing it is missing the complexity of the past. The reward is standing next to 850 feet of mystery that refuses to give up its secrets. Fact number 8, the river trap. Crossing a river on the Appalachian Trail usually means rock hopping or wading through shallow water. But the Kennebec River in Maine breaks that rule with lethal force. It is the only spot on the entire 2,190-mile trail where hikers are strictly forbidden from wading across. That restriction isn't there because the water is deep. It's there because the water changes. The river is roughly 400 feet wide, which is wider than a football field is long. That distance exposes you to the current for a long time, and that's where the trap lies. Upstream, the Harris Dam releases water for hydroelectric power and rafting. When those gates open, the river level can surge several feet in just minutes. Several feet of water moving fast is enough to knock a person down and sweep them away. The timing is the killer. You cannot outrun a river that rises that fast while you are waist deep in the middle of it. This isn't a theoretical danger. Hikers have drowned trying to ford this river, thinking it looked calm enough to cross. That's why a free canoe ferry service exists, to remove the temptation to guess. It's a stark reminder that even in a wilderness setting, an industrial switch flipped miles away can turn a quiet crossing into a death trap in seconds. And that release schedule is still active today, meaning the river is still hunting for bad assumptions right now. Fact number 7, the invisible biological threat. Most people worry about bears or snakes in the mountains, but the real danger is the size of a poppy seed. Lyme disease is a serious bacterial infection, and the ticks that carry it are shockingly small. Nymph stage black-legged ticks measure about 1 to 1.5 millimeters. That is small enough to hide in a fold of a sock or the hairline without being felt. A study of hikers found that nearly half of those treated for Lyme disease did not recall ever seeing a tick on them. That's insane. It means the bite happened, the bacteria transferred, and the tick fell off without the person ever knowing. The bullseye rash is supposed to be the warning sign, but the study showed that only about 54% of hikers could correctly identify it. That leaves a massive gap in awareness. The stakes are high because the bacteria, Borrelia burgdorferi, can enter your bloodstream within 24 to 36 hours of attachment. That is a tight window. If you miss the check one night, you might miss the chance to stop the infection. With over 300,000 estimated cases in the U.S. each year, this isn't a rare fluke. It's a widespread, silent hazard sitting in the grass right now. The penalty is false confidence. The reward is knowing that a simple mirror check every night can save your health. Fact number 6, the sea beneath the hills. The town of Sweetwater, Tennessee, looks perfectly normal from the street. But beneath the rolling hills sits a body of water so large it defies easy mapping. The Lost Sea is a massive underground lake located about 140 feet below the surface. That depth is roughly equal to a 14-story building buried in the ground. The visible part of the lake covers about 4.5 acres, which is large enough to hold more than 3 football fields. But that is just the surface. Divers have explored deeper, finding underwater tunnels that branch off into darkness. Here's the thing, they still haven't found the end of it. The full extent of the water system remains unknown because the passages eventually become too narrow or dangerous to follow. This isn't a stagnant pool either. The lake is stocked with rainbow trout and holds rare geological features like antedites, fragile crystal flowers that usually don't grow near water. The cave also acted as a natural trap during the Ice Age. Explorers have found the remains of dire wolves and giant prehistoric cats that fell in and couldn't get out. It's a time capsule filled with water. And it is still there today, a silent, massive ocean sitting right under the feet of people going about their daily lives. That contrast between the sunny town above and the dark, endless water below is hard to wrap your head around. Fact number 5. The crater that should not exist. Craters on Earth usually disappear. Wind, rain, and shifting plates wipe them off the map over time. But near Gainesboro, Tennessee, a circular scar about 2.4 miles wide is still hiding under the farmland. This is the Flynn Creek Impact Crater. It formed about 360 million years ago when a massive object from space slammed into a shallow sea. The impact was violent enough to shatter rock layers and push the center of the ground upward. That central uplift is still there today, rising about 300 meters from the crater floor. That is taller than many skyscrapers, yet it sits buried in the landscape. The reason it survived is the weirdest part. It was saved by the ocean. The impact happened in shallow water, and mud and debris rushed in to fill the hole almost immediately. A layer of black shale blanketed the site, sealing it like a fossil. This rapid burial protected delicate features like shatter cones, rocks that fractured in cone shapes from the shock wave, which are still visible in road cuts today. NASA even used this site to train astronauts in the 1960s because the preserved features matched what they might see on the moon. It's a rare survivor. Fewer than 10% of craters from this time period are this well preserved. You could drive right through it and never know you are inside a disaster zone from the Devonian period. Fact number 4, the hidden seismic threat. When people think of earthquakes, they think of California or the Pacific Rim. They don't think of the Eastern Tennessee. But the Eastern Tennessee seismic zone stretches for about 300 miles, running from Georgia up into Kentucky. This zone is the second most active seismic area in the United States, east of the Rockies. That sounds impossible, because the land looks so stable. But instruments detect hundreds of small earthquakes here every year. Most are too small to feel, but about once a year, a quake rattles dishes or shakes walls. The cause is buried deep in the basement rock, where ancient faults from billions of years ago are slipping again. These faults are blind, which means they don't break the surface. You can't see a crack in the ground, but the stress is there. Thick layers of sedimentary rock hide the motion, acting like a blanket over a restless sleeper. Models suggest a large quake. Up to magnitude 7.5 is possible, though rare. That creates a strange tension. People build homes and roads assuming the ground is solid, while sensors record constant, quiet, shivering miles below. It's a reminder that solid ground is just an illusion. The Earth is moving right now, even if we choose not to feel it. Fact number 3, the bent mountain block. If you look at a map of the Appalachian Mountains, they run in a fairly straight line from the south up to New York. But in Pennsylvania, the whole range takes a weird, sharp turn to the east before straightening out again. This bend is called the Pennsylvania Salient. For a long time, geologists argued about why the mountains curved. Did the wind change? Did the plates push unevenly? The answer turned out to be a massive, invisible object buried underground. Gravity data and seismic waves revealed a dense block of volcanic rock sitting beneath the bend. This block is huge, about 280 miles long and 60 miles wide. It acts like a buried wall. When the continents collided and pushed the mountains westward, this dense block refused to move. It was too heavy and too stiff. So, the mountain chain had to bend around it, like water flowing around a boulder in a stream. That is insane. The shape of the mountains on the surface was dictated by a stubborn block of rock hidden miles below. That block is still there today, its extra gravity pulling on sensors, silently holding the mountains in that curve. It proves that the landscape we see is often shaped by obstacles we can't see. Fact number 2, the magnetic snake. There is a line running across Alabama, Georgia, and offshore North Carolina that you cannot see with your eyes. But if you look at a magnetic map of the Earth, it screams at you. The Brunswick magnetic anomaly is a long snake-like dip in the Earth's magnetic field. It runs straight and steady for hundreds of miles. This isn't just a random fluctuation. It marks a suture zone, a place where two ancient continents were stitched together. Evidence suggests this line marks where the basement rock of Florida joined North America. Here's the wild part. Florida wasn't originally part of this continent. Its basement rocks match the geology of Africa and South America. Millions of years ago, during the formation of the supercontinent Pangaea, a piece of the southern continent slammed into North America and stuck. When the continents pulled apart later, that piece stayed behind. So, the Brunswick anomaly is basically the scar from that surgery. It records a collision that happened hundreds of millions of years ago, preserved in the magnetic alignment of minerals deep in the crust. It is still detectable right now. Every time a survey plane flies over, the instruments dip, acknowledging the alien rock that makes up the foundation of the Southeast. Fact number 1, the hot blob beneath New England. The number 1 spot goes to a discovery that completely changes how we see the dead East Coast. We are taught that the Appalachians are old, cold, and inactive, but beneath New England, seismic imaging has revealed a massive zone of heat called the Northern Appalachian anomaly. This is a blob of hot rock in the upper mantle, sitting about 195 miles down. It is not small. It spans roughly 220 to 250 miles wide, which is like a long drive across several states. The presence of this heat helps explain why the mountains here are still so rugged. Heat makes rock expand and become more buoyant. This buoyancy pushes the crust upward, fighting against erosion that tries to wear it down. This might explain why the region saw a sudden jump in relief, steeper valleys and sharper drops around 8 million years ago. The mountains were effectively rejuvenated by forces from below. But it gets crazier. This blob appears to be moving. Evidence suggests it has drifted westward over time, passing under the plate as the continent moves. It may have started near the opening of the Atlantic Ocean and traveled more than 1,000 miles to get here. This implies the East Coast is not just sitting still. It is riding over a hot, active mantle feature right now. The penalty for thinking these mountains are dead is missing the engine in the basement. The reward is knowing that even the oldest hills have a warm heart that is still shaping the horizon today. You cannot make this up. The ground feels solid, but deep down it is still telling a story of fire, collision, and change.